It has been a mix of emotions here. It was a bit of relief last night when the winds died off for a bit. Then this morning, it was a very dark, smoky hue across all of LA. We're in the Hollywood Hills here. And then this evening, it was a pretty blind, panicked rush as a lot of us ran back to our homes here just outside of the Hollywood area to gather as many belongings as we could because an evacuation order came down due to a fire at Runyon Canyon. So that fire has since come under control because the winds have subsided and they're bringing airborne assets in to control the fires. But just before we went to air for this conversation, two houses in Studio City have just burned to the ground.
How long have you lived in LA, and what has this felt like to you?
This is surreal, Joe. I've been here for about a decade now, and I've never experienced anything like this. We've had fires, we've had earthquakes, we've had landslides, we've had all sorts of experiences. But this is strange because in Australia, obviously, we deal with bushfires quite regularly. But to be in a metropolis of a population of about 18 million people with fires, as Barbara Miller summed it up really well, essentially in four different major areas, with the population struggling to find power and water in some places, in the second largest urbanized area in the United States. It sounds like hyperbole, but it's apocalyptic. It's sort of, I guess, appropriate that this kind of apocalyptic experience is happening in Hollywood, where a lot of these stories have been told. But there is certainly a surreal nature to it, and it's very scary too. A lot of our friends who have houses in the hills and who have little kids, they've packed up and gone.
Yeah, those images definitely do look apocalyptic. So tell us where you are in relation to the Pacific Palisades, because that's where a lot of the most extraordinary images have been coming from. And have you spent time up in that area? And what's your reaction to seeing what's happened there?
It reminds me of Malakuta in January 2020.
Yep.
The whole place is just gone. And we've spent a bit of time around the Pacific Palisades. To give some context for the Australian viewers, it's a very large area full of beautiful canyons, and it's a very old area too. So there's a lot of old houses up there. The Getty Villa is there, which has priceless artifacts in it. And there's a lot of very successful people up there who've had homes there for a very long time. But these communities have just been completely wiped out. So for us as Angelenos and people who are expats who have come here, a lot of us are expats, of course, from America and from around the world. It is quite sorrowful, and it's quite surreal to witness it. And I've never seen anything quite like this ever.
Around 24 hours ago, as we were going to air, we were just getting these pictures coming through, and one of the images was a shot of the LA kind of downtown area looking towards the hills, and this massive pall of smoke. I think it was heading out towards the water. But what was it like kind of being in that? Because you're near West Hollywood, I think it is, and so were you kind of in the middle of that smoke?
It was the first thing we saw this morning, Joe. We got up this morning, and it was just a brown orangey hue across the Hollywood Hills. So we're about a kilometre up the road from the Hollywood Bowl. So we're in what's called the Cahuenga Pass, not far from Universal Studios. So we're sort of on the cusp of Burbank, the Valley, and Hollywood. And everything was just sort of brown. Everything was just sort of ensconced in this brown, smoky hue. And of course, everybody in Australia is very familiar with that smell and that experience. So that's from the Eaton fire I think you're referring to, because Pasadena is just sort of in a southeasterly direction, I should say, from where we are. And with the wind subsiding, that smoke came right over the basin. And it's sort of just sitting here at the moment. Actually, as we speak, there's water bombers flying over my house to pick water up from the Hollywood Reservoir, which is just over my shoulder here, where the Hollywood sign is about a kilometre that way, and the reservoir is just beneath it. It's one of Mulholland's creations to bring water to SoCal, which we desperately need in the best of years. And they're filling up on water there and taking it to these houses which are on fire in Studio City.
And just as you've been talking there, and I think you can see some of the images we're putting up. There was a shot of Malibu, those coastal homes along the beach at Malibu. Have you seen those? They've just been wiped out.
Yeah, it's gone. It's just gone. So, I mean, everybody's familiar with Malibu in popular culture, and picture, TV, film, and those beautiful homes and that. But there's just the whole community up there too. People have lost livelihoods. There's restaurants, there's hospitality venues up there, and that whole area does rely on day visitors and visitors to come visit the community to have an economy. So this is going to have a long effect on the area.
And there's the Santa Ana winds are referred to repeatedly in different songs and through popular culture. But for people who aren't aware of them, explain for us a bit about these Santa Ana winds and just how ferocious they were in the last 24 hours.
Sure, Joe. And just for some context too, the footage you're currently playing is down the road from our house. That's the Runyon Canyon fire, which has just occurred. So the Santa Ana winds is equivalent to like our westerly busters, which happen back home. You know, the big westerlies come in, dry everything out, and can be very dangerous for people. The Santa Ana winds essentially come in from the east-northeast, and sometimes they're further around the east. They come down through the San Gabriel Mountains, and LA is, of course, a big mix of valleys and mountains all leading to this huge basin. Now, when the winds hit these valleys, it's like putting your thumb on the end of a fire hose. It just sprays it out at quite a volatile pace, increasing the pace of the wind significantly. So Burbank Airport, which is about 15 minutes from our place, had wind gusts of about 75 miles an hour last night.
Yeah.
So that combined with humidity in single digits, which is what the LAFD have just told us, combined with 1/10 of an inch of rain over the last 4 months, plus as the climates begin to change as well. We had flooding rains this time last year. Now this year the place is on fire. We're experiencing these huge swings in meteorological events.
And so what are your plans now?
Well, currently, Joe, we literally have everything packed up. You probably see we've taken all the photos down and everything like that. My fiance, Allison, who's American, she's got everything boxed up and in the bags and ready to go. We are set because if anything gets close to us, and because we're not far from these canyons and valleys, like Studio City is on fire, Runyon Canyon was on fire, we're sort of in between those two areas. If anything gets closer to us, we've got everything packed and we've got an escape plan ready to go.
But yeah, as you said, the winds have eased off a bit now.
Yes, so the winds have backed right off compared to what they were this time yesterday when they were horrific. But they are expecting the Santa Ana winds to kick back up again Friday morning. We are still under that red flag warning, which we referred to earlier, which is something we don't have in Australia. Red flag warning essentially means low humidity, high wind, and high fire danger all at once. And then they're expecting some Santa Ana winds to kick in Monday, Tuesday, and there's no sign of moisture or rain until we're talking about February, March. They always say it rains during the Oscars. So if that's the case, we've got a long wait.
Indeed. Okay, Zac, thanks so much for talking to us, and yeah, stay safe over the next several days there.
Thank you very much, Joe, and love to everybody. We're doing okay.
Cheers.